You want to listen to a podcast?
By who?
Georgia GOP Congressman Doug Collins.
How is it?
The greatest thing I have ever heard in my whole life.
I could not believe my ears.
In this house, wherever the rules are disregarded, chaos and mob rule. It has been said today, where is bravery? I'll tell you where bravery is found and courage is found. It's found in this minority who has lived through the last year of nothing but rules being broken, people being put down, questions not being answered. And this majority say, be damned with anything else. We're going to impeach and do whatever we want to do. Why? Because we won an election. I guarantee you, one day you'll be back in the minority and it ain't gonna be that fun. Hey everybody, it's Doug Collins. Welcome back to the podcast. Just a few minutes, just on the other side of the break, you're going to hear a great conversation with our good friend Matt Whitaker. He's been on the show before. We're going to dive in depth, with questions like, why can't Congress enforce its subpoenas? Why can't Congress enforce the contempt charges have? Where are we at with DOJ? Why is the investigations not going anywhere into Hunter Biden? Why was it that they chose to go after Donald Trump during his campaign and decided not to go after Joe Biden? All these questions, plus a little bit of look into Iowa football. And of course, we always talk about hunting and stuff. Matt's a great guest. We're glad to have him on. You get ready for a good time here on the Doug Collins podcast. Hey, everybody, you know about Legacy Precious Metals. Legacy Precious Metals, you hear from them. We talk once a month. We talk about Legacy Precious Metals, talking about precious metals being part of your portfolio, how they're your navigator. Well, now they're not only navigating in a new way, they're actually giving you a new way to buy gold and silver. In fact, Legacy Precious Metals has developed a revolutionary new online platform that allows you to invest in real gold and silver online. In a few easy steps, you can open an account online, select your metals of choice, and choose to have them stored in a vault or shipped to your door. I'm more of a ship to my door kind of person. I enjoy having them with me, but they can do it either way, and you can now do it online. It gives you real access to a dashboard where you can track your portfolio growth in real time, anytime. You'll see transparent pricing on each coin and bar. This puts you in complete control of your money. This platform is free to sign up for. Just visit legacypminvestments.com and open your account and see this new investing platform for yourself. Gold hedges against inflation and is against a volatile stock market. A true diversified portfolio isn't just more stocks and bonds, but a different asset class. This platform allows you to make investments in gold and silver, no matter how small or large, with just a few clicks. Remember, do as I have done. Go to legacypminvestments.com and get started today. And now you've got a new tool to help you along in your investments. Hey folks, MyPillow is excited to bring to you their biggest bedding sale ever. For a limited time, you're going to get the Giza Dream bed sheets for as low as $29.98, a set of pillowcases for only $9.98, and rejuvenate your bed with a MyPillow mattress topper for as low as $99.99. $99.99. Get a mattress pillow topper. Look, they come in all sizes. They got all kinds of stuff, blankets. They've got duvets. They've got quilts. They got comforters. They got body pillows. They got bolster pillows. They got all that big discounts. And also, they're extending their money-back guarantee for Christmas until March 1, 2023, making them the perfect gift for your friends, your family, and for everyone you know. Folks, and just from a personal note here, I have the Giza Dream sheets. They're on my bed right now. I slept on them last night. Some of the best sheets that we and Lisa and I have ever owned. They are worth, at this price, they're a steal. My wife and I have bought bed sheets, linens at much higher cost. It's supposedly much higher quality. These from MyPillow are at the highest of quality, and at a price like this, you can't beat it. So go now to MyPillow.com, use promo code Collins, COLLINS, or call 1-800-986-3994, and you'll get huge discounts on all the MyPillow bedding products, including the Giza Dream bed sheets for as low as $29.98, and get all your shopping done while qualities last. And remember, put in that promo code Collins for these discounts. So you're all traveling all over the world.
I am, and I'm getting ready to go on I go to West Virginia today, and then starting Monday, I go up to New York to do Gutfeld. Tuesday, I'm in Palm Beach. Wednesday, I'm in Iowa for 5 days. Then I go to Montana, back to Iowa, back to Montana, back to Iowa. And then I go to Colorado just for fun. And then 3 weeks after that, Australia. So,
okay, well,
I live on a plane.
Believe me, I sort of understand. I keep mine a little bit, days at a time, but I understand that process. But folks, we're glad to have Matt here on, finding time between the schedules. I do have to ask, Australia, are we taking the goodness to Australia? Is that what we're doing?
I went to CPAC Australia last year. They invited me back this year. And so we are taking the goodness.
There you go.
I'm doing kind of a panel on wokeness.
Yeah, that's happening everywhere, especially in different parts of the world. It is amazing. Well, Matt, since last time you and I, got on the podcast together, lots going on. I think one of the things I'd like to hit with you today, and we're going to have a good time in our time together, is not only talking about what's going on in the world, but also hitting a little bit of fun. We got Iowa, we got football, we got everything coming up, we got elections, so it's going to be fun. But let's start off. People are, and I've run across this a lot.
Matt,
Matt.
We're into the show. Okay, that was quick.
Yeah, well, that was it. Thanks for ending. Thanks for playing.
You don't screw around, man.
Yeah, we're done. Thanks for playing. No, anyway, we are looking at. I get this question a lot. You being inside the beast, so to speak, at the Department of Justice as acting Attorney General. I mean, we're getting. There's a lot going on right now, and I think one of the things, and I've seen you talk about this on interviews that I've been talking about this as well. There's something inherently broken right now. And I'm going to say, and I made a comment the other day that took a couple of reporters off guard. I said, because they were talking about the whistleblowers, they were talking about people starting to come out. I said, what I think you're seeing is the vast majority of the 38,000 people in the FBI and the Department of Justice who don't work in Washington, D.C. in those suites are finally saying we're tired of being lumped in with what's going on perception-wise with the Biden investigations, everything else. And so some of them are starting to come out. As you and I know, they have been griping for a long time, but you got now some coming out. Is this what's happening in the last few weeks actually going to be enough in your mind to get attention to the fact that this is, I don't care what political stance you have or don't have, this is a broken system right now?
Yeah. That's a really nuanced question. I think, the American people are smart, but at the same time, they're smart enough to not follow the day-to-day nonsense from Washington, D.C. I was just with my home state senator, Chuck Grassley, had breakfast with him yesterday. And he always reminds me that Washington, D.C. is an island surrounded by reality. And, the real Americans, especially working class Americans, families are struggling right now. And, I think we still have a little bit of a affluent boom for those that, are the haves. But, for me, the people I care about, farmers, factory workers, teachers, all the, real Americans, they don't have time to pay attention to this nonsense. They're taking their kid to soccer. They're playing baseball this summer. They're trying to afford the things in life, and they're not seeing their wages go up. So I say all that to say this, Doug. I think it is coming around. I think the narrative that the FBI especially, but the DOJ are not focused on the basic blocking and tackling of law enforcement, that they're playing politics, that they're favoring the Bidens over people that happen to be named Trump or supported Donald Trump. I think that's breaking through. But we need your friends in Congress right now to keep pressing. This most recent news with this 1023 being released by Chuck Grassley really reveals, I think, the lack of curiosity into the Biden family's dealings and what those mean, and whether or not it was, the greatest scandal probably in our nation's history to date.
Yeah, well, and you've hit on it here, and the reason I sort of brought the question up, man, is I read an article just a few weeks ago, a poll that was done that and as well as I do, the over 50 crowd votes. It's just statistically they vote more than the under 50 crowd. I mean, if you look at the way they go, and also though this is the same grouping that is more tied to traditional media. Okay, they for years they go home at night, they get off work, they turn on the TV. It's the 6 o'clock news, then followed by the 7 o'clock whatever from ABC, CBS, NBC. And they did a poll, and it said that 65%, when asked about specific kind of these questions, like the laptop, some of these other, really didn't have a clue to the depth of it because we have a media that has not covered it. And I think that's why the question for me was, and what you said at the end about Congress. A lot of times hearings are just that. They're 4-hour blocks of life that then go on and nothing happened. These hearings, though, are actually starting to put into the public realm to the point, I believe, and I would hope you would as well, but I'm still skeptical, that there's getting to be where Democrats can't ignore this anymore, and the media can't ignore it anymore.
Yeah, well, first of all, in my experience growing up, after the local news, we watched the national news for half an hour, local news for half an hour, and then Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. So that was kind of the evening after my dad got home from work.
Yep,
but
I know it.
But yes, these, it's just hard to know. Obviously, there's the old adage that when you finally get tired of saying it, it's finally breaking through.
Right.
And that's probably where we're at now, where, the Hunter Biden narrative has been out there for some time. He was clearly trading on his dad's name when his dad was vice president. He was clearly, making the family money during and after the vice presidency, Joe Biden, for all those years in public service, since I was reminded, the second Nixon term. Politicians like Jimmy Carter knew Joe Biden as a senator. He somehow has become a very wealthy man. That's not most politicians' experience. I know that some do, but most don't. I'm guessing your experience aligns with the some don't.
Mine was a public record knowledge of how much I made for those years.
Well, you and me both. So that being said, I think we've reached an inflection point where there is enough credible evidence. There is enough information that demands that Congress and, quite frankly, federal law enforcement get to the bottom of this. Did Joe Biden accept money, or did his family accept money in order to affect U.S. policy, especially as it related to the Ukraine? And those are legitimate questions. And the fact that half of America, and especially half of the elected American political class, have no interest and no curiosity in that, tells you everything you should know, Doug.
Yeah, it does. Well, and the thing you're getting at here, though, and you saw it this week, and again, I've been a part of hearings with you and without you on so many different things, these high-profile hearings, and you saw, again, what I think was just the Democrat just sort of publicly facing, and I was in D.C. this week and talked to some Democrats and others, and publicly facing, they're saying, well, there's nothing new here. We knew about these. He didn't get charged. That's the prosecutor. Weiss has said that he had full authority. Things that we know have been also contradicted. But yet behind the scenes, they're now having to really start answering questions, because even the most incurious national media is saying, wait, okay, where did the $10 million go, and why didn't they pay taxes on it? Why are these suspicious activities reports going unfollowed up? And why did the report that Grassley just released, he's got the best question out there. What did you do with this report? What was the actual action items? Because we know what they did with Crossfire Hurricane. We know what they did with a fake dossier. What did they do with this? Again, from a credible source.
Yeah, Doug, a little bit of breaking news on that. I was on Hannity last night.
Yeah.
And John Solomon was also on that panel. And John explained, and has some really good reporting on this. And because he's not mainstream, you got to kind of seek it out. But, John's point was, based on everything he's heard from sources, the FBI did investigate the allegations in the FD 1023. And they credibly checked out. Millions of dollars transferred to the Biden family. The Victor Shulkin, the prosecutor, was fired. $1 billion was therefore given to Ukraine and U.S. aid. And, as it approached the 2020 election, they shelved this investigation and no longer decided to pursue it because Joe Biden was a presidential candidate. Saying that, it's a different context now. There certainly Donald Trump doesn't get that benefit of having investigations shelved. The fact, if you look at the way that Donald Trump has been pursued versus Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, these things sort of are obvious to me, and I've always felt like what's obvious to me is obvious to everybody. But I think we need to keep shining a bright light on this, Doug, because we can't have this two-tiered system of justice where all the resources are poured into one type of investigation, and at the same time, the political appointees and people that are sympathetic to a certain candidate put their thumb on the scale. But the broader context is we cannot criminalize the political. And I think that's where, unfortunately, we are. And, not to plug my, 3-year-old book, but I will, because I love your book, The Calendar and the Clock.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Calendar and the Clock?
Clock and the Calendar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're right.
Clock and the Calendar. I got it backwards. But above the law, I lay out sort of, why we can't make the political criminal. And I think we're, experiencing that right now.
Well, you just hit something that maybe if folks here listening to the podcast, you catch nothing else of what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to tease it here right now. Catch the next few minutes, because Matt just brought up something that I want to emphasize, because, as he said earlier, that, you say it until you said it like you felt like you're just a broken record. But I want to break through, because Matt, you hit it there perfectly. And I think it just hit me as a light. Think about this. When you heard the testimony the other day of those whistleblowers notice saying, he was a candidate, and the Democrats were trying to say he was not president, he was a candidate. Okay, in 2016, in the convention in Cleveland, we've got the timeline started with Crossfire Hurricane. We know when it all started. We know when they went to him. This was when Donald Trump was the nominee. And now they're trying to make this somehow distinction between that they didn't pursue this because Joe Biden was president. No, they pursued it as well. I can't think of a more stark image, and I would challenge anybody on the Democrat side, from Goldman to Wasserman Schultz, to anybody, to say, okay, to explain the differences here. Explain how you had an FBI with Comey, Strzok, Page, McCabe, and all these others sticking with an investigation while he was a candidate. And here you're saying, well, we were told and it was okay because he was a candidate. It doesn't make sense, but you just made a great point there.
Yeah. I'll expound on that a little bit because it's important. And that is, it was clear that, obviously I've endorsed Donald Trump. He's a friend of mine. I was his acting attorney general. I don't think it's any secret that, I know and like Donald Trump. So that being said, the way that Crossfire Hurricane was started, pursued, special counsel was appointed, it is very clear to me now, based on all the evidence, based on the Inspector General's report, based on the Durham report, all of these things, if you string them all together, it's just very clear that there was a faction within the administrative state, kind of the non-political appointed administrative state, that wanted to marginalize, eliminate, and otherwise take Donald Trump out. And I don't think that faction has gone away. Obviously Peter Strzok was fired, Lisa Page, Jim Comey. I mean, we can kind of list all the names. Everybody knows them. They're on the cover of my book. But that being said,
and McCabe gets a contract with CNN.
Yeah, well, they all, that's the thing, is they all benefit. If you look at the sort of the way the left takes care of their own, it's really extraordinary that they're all contributors and get paid. But it's just to me it's just so obvious that and then I ask why, and this is what we all need to inquire: is there a DC nonpartisan establishment, both right and left, and lawyers, political appointees, think tank, all those? Is there a group that finds Donald Trump politically dangerous because he is a change agent? He is going to change things. He's not going to keep the business as usual in Washington, D.C. Going. I think that's the fear, and I think they see that their own existential risk for their own, slop troughs, as we call them in Iowa, are going to be, eliminated, and their connectedness and their way of doing business that feed. Listen, I said it when I was running for Senate in 2014. I still believe it's true, but if you look at 1950, the wealthiest metropolitan area in the United States was Detroit, Michigan. And now some of the wealthiest counties in the United States, I think I heard somebody just say 5 of the top 10, are all counties surrounding Washington, D.C. There has been a complete shift, a complete vacuuming up of our nation's resources and a redistribution by the government into the, this permanent administrative state together with the industries that feed it. And that's, I think that is why I'm involved. That's what I want to change. Obviously that's not a popular position, but you're from real America too, Doug. You live in real America like I do. You see it and you know exactly what it is.
It is. And I think that's the important part here. And again, without, again, you and I could sit here for 6 hours and dissect everything that's going on and raise, again, I've said it before and I don't attribute to anybody else but me. I've been calling for, ever since I sat down with Christopher Wray almost 4 years ago and heard his explanation on what he was doing, I'm saying he's not what we need right now. And it's just gotten worse, in my opinion, as we go forward, because it's just, there just seems to be the relationship to reality, as I think you called it earlier, is just missing with some of what they're doing. And it goes back. But I want to bring up something else. And this is going to be because you think a lot about things like this, and I think it's good. And I've been thinking a lot about this because I get this all the time. You see it probably on your comments, on your social media. You probably heard it on the streets. I get it a lot. I'm tired of Congress doing hearings. It's time for them to arrest somebody. And I have to explain to them, thank God they can't arrest anybody. I do not want to ever have a time in which Chuck Schumer can actually arrest somebody. I don't want to have a time when even Republicans, Kevin McCarthy, we don't need that. But here's my question. It's a pondering question. We have got to come up with something, though, in which Congress has the ability to enforce its subpoenas, its contempt. And in my opinion right now, it can't be the function of the DOJ, because what we've seen in the DOJ for the last 10 years, they ignore contempts on Democrats and they pursue contempts. And the obstruction of Congress, they went after, I don't care what you think about the individuals, Bannon and Meadows and Peter, it just left my name.
Navarro's the one.
Navarro. There we go. Navarro. Yeah. Golly, I'm sitting here looking at him. He'd be yelling right now.
Standing there with his hands waving around. Yes.
Yeah, he's just going nuts.
Peter Navarro.
Yeah, Peter Navarro. They went after them. Matt, there hadn't been an obstruction of Congress in decades. And yet none of the Democrats were ever pursued on this. They were just put away. At what point, is there a way, because Congress can set this, is there a way that we could come up with that would put it sort of, I thought you were going there a minute ago with this sort of non-party, finding a way to get true investigation or bring a charge to the court system without it being tainted with, like right now, a Republican House has no hope of having a subpoena enforced by the DOJ.
Yeah. We could talk all day about this, Doug, because I have some strong thoughts, but I think your fundamental premise is correct, which is, if you have an administration like we do now that is unwilling to cooperate with legitimate oversight and investigative authority of Congress, then there needs to be sort of a way to enforce that. I've always, thought that implicit in sort of Congress's powers in Article 1 that they could use Congress jail, send the sergeant at arms out to do that, put them in the basement of the Capitol until they are willing to testify. Now, that being said, obviously, theoretically, that's much more compelling than probably the actual execution of that. But, I guess I've always thought, I look at, we're at a point now, and again, our founding fathers warned us about factionalism. We are doing that. It's not the first time, obviously, leading up to the war in 1812, there was factionalism. There's always been factionalism. There have always been parties that have always competed. There's no statesman. There's nobody that stands above the fray. I think, Senator Grassley probably is the closest to it, but again, the left does not necessarily like him. So let's not suggest that he's above the fray, but we have to find a way, because I think in Watergate, there was an agreement on both sides that, what Richard Nixon did was crossed the line, and they followed the process on a bipartisan basis. But now, and you were there, listen, we saw Donald Trump impeached twice on pure political, party line votes that I think just kind of, laid it bare as to where we are in this country. And so we got to get back to where there are, bright lines, bipartisan bright lines, including the enforcement of congressional subpoenas, because if we don't, then that takes a lot of power away from Article 1. And our founding fathers thought that Congress would be the strongest branch of the three branches. The courts would be the weakest. And right now we've flipped it on its head, and we've seen the courts expand, but also the executive branch has expanded their powers, and Congress has sort of let that happen. It's supposed to be this natural tension built in the system, and it's supposed to work. And there's supposed to be a tension between the House and the Senate. And we're not seeing our system work. And I think our founding fathers always imagined that there would be, regular citizens, but those citizens would take their duties very honestly and seriously.
Yeah. Well, I think 2 points is happening, and this is what I was sensing a little bit. I know you're in DC a good bit as well, but I'm sensing a little bit that if these Treasury reports keep coming out, these FBI reports keep coming out, there's a certain point in time where, just like in the Nixon, because if you remember early on, there was no Republicans wanting to go after Nixon. I mean, it's normal. It's like, oh no, he's just, he's that. But as the drips came out and it became more and more clear something was going on, I think you saw a turn. And I think that's really, where we're at with this. But it's going to be one last thought I had. I don't know how we would have to do it, but the states have direct access to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court acts as a trial court on issues between states. Just a throwing out there. Maybe this will be another time we do what we'll call a coffee round podcast. We'll bring in a couple other attorneys and really bore everybody to death. But, I wonder if we could figure out how we could get, maybe Congress has a direct on these issues, passes a law, does whatever, however we can change it, where they have a direct access to the Supreme Court, which would be a trial court, because they were intended that way from years past. We've changed that, of course, with circuit courts and everything else. But if it works for states, maybe it could work between Congress and the executive, or Congress implicitly with those powers.
Yeah, there's definitely, I think you're pointing out that there's definitely an accommodation between the three branches that was designed into the system, but mechanically, your point is very well made that it's just not working as intended. But I mean, Congress has powerful tools, as you know, Doug. Are they politically palatable? Is defunding the executive branch that you disagree with, is that palatable? Will the American people agree with you on that? I don't know. I mean, I think they have to start using every tool in the toolbox to get the administrative state back in the box. I mean, you've seen with the major questions doctrine that the Supreme Court certainly has used its tools that it has to try to get the administrative state and the executive branch back to its constitutional boundaries. But I think it takes all of the branches in the beautiful relationship, the beautiful dance that our founding fathers created to do their jobs. And right now, Congress is too. I believe, this is me speaking, I believe that Congress is afraid to wield some of its power for fear of losing elections, for fear of losing power. And that's been created by the career politicians, by the people that have really just kind of known nothing but Washington, D.C. and being elected. And it's not what our founding fathers intended. We've talked about that before, so I won't go into my riff on that. But
I think you're right there. But I think the interesting thing is there's also a big divide that there's half of government. Again, right now is everything else. There's 2/3 of everything, three parts of any appropriations. You have to have Senate, House, and you have to have President sign it. And as long as you're on 1/3, that's going to be very difficult. And also, you have a party up there that actually believes that the state that we're talking about, that administrative state, is actually the best thing in the world. And so, you're never going to see it. Hey, before we get going, we got a few more minutes left here on the podcast. I do want to turn to Iowa. I mean, your native son, you're there. Iowa is always the presidential sort of, whether the rest of the world likes it or not, it's still there is the thing. Donald Trump, has had good success there before. You've had the other candidates, and I know you're supporting. Is Iowa as normal is sort of up for grabs this time? Do you see it? Also, even from the Democratic perspective, a little bit, is Biden not playing very well? Just give us a quick, if you want just a minute, how do you see Iowa this, 6 months out, so to speak? How's Iowa playing out?
Yeah, well, first of all, obviously it's a very sophisticated political class. The people that go to the Iowa caucuses, know what they're doing. They've done it for years. I went to my first caucus as a senior in high school in 1988, got credit for government class, got some extra credit. But, there are 3 tickets out of Iowa. We winnow the field typically and send it to New Hampshire. Folks, the famous saying is Iowa's, what do you think of this candidate? And it's like, I don't know. I've only met him 3 times. And so, there is very much the activists go, they listen, they're slow to commit. In fact, many of them don't commit until they have to show up on a cold night in January this year and commit. But, Donald Trump's very popular. Obviously, Iowans know what his policies did for our state. And, his policies of bringing back manufacturing in the United States, supporting our farmers, giving families extra money in their pocketbook, those types of things obviously make a difference. And I would just say, Donald Trump's popular. There are certainly other candidates that are vying for support. And I think Iowans are just trying to figure out who they are and what they stand for and whether they're up to the task. They know Donald Trump did the job once and can do it again immediately and better. And so, it's a high bar. But at the same time, the folks that invest the time in Iowa, that show up, do, meet Iowans, put their guard down. You can't be just standing on a podium with a big security detail and expect Iowans to support you because you check a bunch of boxes. They want you to roll up your sleeves and do the process in Iowa. I'm going to be all over the state in August. I'm giving several county speeches. I'm going to do, there's a big, at the end of July here, there's a big state party event where all the candidates are going to be. They're all going to have 10 minutes. And so I think, the gun has gone off and, it's the polls suggest that Donald Trump is very strong and has over 50% support in Iowa. But at the same time, I've counseled him to continue to show up, continue to do the things that are required, and that they'll have success doing that.
Yeah, I think one of the best experiences I've had in giving speeches was a few years ago. I got to go to Faith and Freedom, Iowa, at the Iowa Fairgrounds. 1,100 people there. It was just, it was. I loved it. I did. I was a keynote.
Well, we need to have you back. You're always welcome. I'm happy to host you.
Well, let me know. I'll come in a heartbeat. I had a ball. It was at night, and it was right in the middle of coming through Mo and everything else. And we, as the old saying goes, from the old we shucked some corn for about 35, 40 minutes and had a ball. Lisa and I loved it. As we go, hey, real quickly, Iowa football. What we looking at? How's it going?
Well, again, we should be improved. We had a good team last year. We struggled on offense, and we've got a quarterback that was the second stringer at Michigan, had been a starter, a guy named Cade McNamara. We got this tight end named Alt, I think is his name, but he's also a Michigan guy. We got a wide receiver, so we've picked up some weapons on offense. Our defense is going to be stout. It was really top of the line last year. It's just until we see them on the field and how their chemistry is working, it's going to be hard to tell. But, Coach Ferentz always, plays consistent. Some people describe it as a fist fight in a phone booth. We don't get blown out. A lot of games are close. It gives me a lot of stress in the fall, and I'll be happy to watch your Georgia Bulldogs with their exceptional talent and just dream of what we could do with that.
Hey, looking for 3 right now, looking for 3. But no, also you're going to get with all your massive travel plans, are you going to get to spend any time in the stand or anything in Hunt this year?
Oh boy. As you know, I love deer hunting. I love upland birds, pheasant, and then I love duck hunting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got to find a chance. I have so many great invitations from so many friends that want to get me out in the field, and I need to block out a week. Yeah. I think what I'm going to get to do is I'm going to South Dakota with my friend Marty Jackley, who's the Attorney General there. We were U.S. attorneys together, and he invited me up to the Attorney General's pheasant hunt. And I think I'm going to take him up on that and at least get out in the field and hunt some pheasant.
I have grown. I was not a bird hunter, like I do dove, of course, down here in quail, but it didn't. Really, I've grown to love quail, and I'm Kelly Armstrong, great guy from North Dakota, congressman who actually, on another topic we didn't even get a chance to talk about, criminal justice stuff, is just a great guy. But I want to go up and do the pheasants, and but I've just over time I've really learned to. That's been fun. I mean,
meet me in South Dakota at the end of September.
We might have to work that out. I'd probably get in trouble with my son who's getting married at the end of September. But hey, let me know the dates. We'll work
you know what? He'll forgive you.
I love it. Hey, folks, Matt Whitaker, always a great guest here on the Doug Collins podcast. He gets to the heart of it. He talks about the issues. He's not scared to talk about it. Check him out, Matt. You still got your podcast up? Other stuff you're doing?
I do Liberty and Justice every week, and Whitaker.tv is where you can see I post most of my TV hits and all my shows.
All right, folks, that's it for the Doug Collins podcast. We'll see you next time.